Alrighty, everybody. Happy Tuesday. So, believe it or not, we have made it to the end of the content as of the rest of tonight. We'll be done with new stuff. So, don't have too much more new stuff for you. Chapter 13's got a lot of stuff in there. Again, he takes what I'll call the hard approach. So, we're going to look at a couple of cool things we can do, and then we're done. So, we're talking about the lab. Make sure we're good with exceptions. Don't need to do much more than the lab. You'll again, that's a topic you'll hit more next semester if you do continue on in 2151, which, by the way, classes are filling up. I hope you registered already because they're getting full for summer. Hey, Angel Bags, thanks for hanging out online. You gotta remember to look at chat here too. And then we'll have work time next week. There's nothing new. It's just work time. And then on April 25th, you folks get a chance to present. So I'll send out a Zoom link if people are going to present remotely. And the idea is you talk about your project, show us how the game works, right? Go over, show me the different features. You can walk around the maze, you can attack, you can fight, you can sleep, you can run, do those things. I might ask some questions about your code, and we'll go from there. So I did get a couple questions about the commit requirement. That was new for some folks. Let me make sure I get the right one here. So the idea with the commit requirement is you are working on it multiple times. You can't just turn something in the day that it's due. I won't take it. Right? We have to be showing some progress. So you open your project, you work on it, you write some stuff, and then you make your commits here in GitHub. So if we go and open up IntelliJ, so I'm actually going to open up the project 2, and I'm going to add the exceptions to that because that was the lab. So I'm going to go find my project 2 here, and then I'll show you what that commit's going to look like. So and then you can see some history there, which is cool. So I think I have project 2 in here. There we go. That ought to do it. So the idea with this is instead of just returning a false, here we're going to raise an exception and say, hey, this is a bad thing, you can't do it. So it works out pretty well. So instead of return false, we're just going to throw new illegal argument exception and say, it's too far, you can't drive that far. Some sort of message like that. Otherwise, we return true.
I don't know how easy it's like for you, but it took me thinking, like, it took me about an hour just like with.
I changed one line here. I'm going to change one line down here. Same thing here. You can't charge that much. And that was it. So the next piece, though, is we have to write the main method to actually try this out and use it. So we do have tests, and our tests are going to fail now because we're not going to return false. Different things will happen. So if you go and run your tests that we had here, we're going to get some bad stuff. And that's okay. There's ways to fix it. I'm not all that interested in fixing it right now. That wasn't part of the exercise here. You'll see, hey, we got an illegal argument exception. Test did not pass because now instead of getting a false back, it just crashed on us and we didn't do anything about it. There's ways to go do it. Again, I'm not all that concerned with fixing it right now. There's ways you can test exceptions. It's okay. You'll get to it later. But the idea now in main, we wanted to just try it and see because we wanted to use the try-catch block. And it is, if we know a bad thing could happen, we use the try block. So if a bad thing can happen, it goes in try, and then we catch if that bad thing happens, and we do something about it. So generally, we might do this in some sort of loop. If you just had a straight get some input and try it, that's okay. It doesn't have to loop. That's generally a little bit easier to do with a loop, though, right? Like if we want them to enter a value for like how much you're going to charge, and we just say it didn't work, and we don't give them a chance to do it again, they're going to be a little confused. This is not a program a real person's going to use, so either way was okay. But I'll show you the loop method here. So depending on how your project 2 was written, it could have been a lot more changes than this, depending on what your flow was. I did the bad thing first. Some people did the good thing first and then checked for bad. So like what you had to change would be a little bit different, but again, not too big of a deal in changing this here. The whole idea is that when you use an exception, the person has to do something about it or crash. Just returning a false, we have no idea if anyone actually did anything with that message or not. Right? So if someone was using my car and they thought they charged the car and we just returned a false and they didn't care, if you're actually driving an electric car and you plug it in and you say, hey, I want to charge for this amount, or you don't actually have to do that, but cars are smarter than that. But you said, hey, I want to charge for this amount and it failed and your car didn't charge, the next morning you'd be pretty sad. So forcing someone to do something about it is a more appropriate way for our class to say, no, you did a bad thing, fix it. Because no one wants to crash. So in main, then we're going to try that. So we'll set up our scanner, call it keyboard as a new scanner, given system in, that one, right? There we go. Add our imports. And we'll ask them, hey, if we wanted details about their car, we could, or we could just make a new vehicle for them. Again, not all that important here. So we'll make an electric vehicle, call it a vehicle. There's a new electric vehicle. Oops, electric vehicle. Now we needed a couple pieces of information here, right? Our constructor needed the max kilowatt hours, the kilometers per kilowatt hour, the make, the model, and the color. So whatever our max is here, so maybe like 10 kilowatt hours, sure. Maybe we'll get 10 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Doesn't matter all that much here. The make, model, and color don't matter at all, so I'm just going to give empty quotes. So we got a vehicle. We know it starts empty because that's what our constructor did. So let's ask them if they want to charge first, or how much they want to charge first. So we'll ask them, how much do you want to charge, or how many kilowatt hours is probably a better way. How many kilowatt hours do you want to charge? And there's 2 T's there, right? Now, when we're just getting user input, we know this can crash. So we're going to have to put this in a try block here. And now we got some options. So depending on how we want to go about using this try block, right? Again, this idea of a loop being a little bit nicer here is probably a good thing. So I'm going to say, hey, this is going to be a double for kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours to charge, yeah.
The main is supposed to just catch, right?
So we're going to try and catch. Yeah, so the main, wherever you're using that class is going to try the thing that might break and then catch it if it does break. Catch that exception. So that's the idea here. Now, it doesn't have to happen in a main, it can happen anywhere. We can put a try catch block.
Like catch whatever you put in the row, right?
Yeah, we're going to catch whatever could happen. So when we're just using our integer.parseInt or double.parseDouble, we could get those number format exceptions. So in our try block, we can catch for that. So I'm going to say, while my kilowatt hours to charge is equal to 0, because I want this to keep running here as long as this happens. And what I'm going to do then, I'll set this equal to double.parseDouble, given the keyboard.next line. And I know if they type in something bad here, an exception might happen. So I'm going to catch a number format exception. And here I'll just spit out the exception here because that's probably okay. Right? It's got a message there. And as long as this is staying at 0, it's going to keep on running. So if an exception happens, this never gets set here. It stays at 0 and the while loop runs again. So let me format that so it should be tabbed in a little bit. So we'll give them a message, and maybe we actually put this prompt inside here. Maybe that's a little bit nicer here. So we'll prompt them, how many kilowatt hours do you want to charge? And then try and turn that into an answer. If it doesn't work, the while loop runs again. And the while loop runs again, the while loop runs again. So we can just try just this amount of code here, and we should be able to enter anything we want that's not a number. So like 10 says, hey, again, not the prettiest message here. We could do prettier messages. Number format exception for input string 10. It's okay for now. Like we can work on better messages later. And it's going to ask me again. Okay, so now if I give it a real number, we're done. So we know when the while loop is done, we'll have a real number here. Now it can call charge. So again, I'm going to do this in, I can even do it in the same try block if I want it here, right? We could catch the number format exception, and then we can call my vehicle.charge given the kilowatt hours to charge. And I can catch a different thing here, right? This is an illegal argument exception. And we'll just spit out that same exception, right? You can use the ors, you can use different catches. Either way is okay. They're both options here. However you want to try and catch your arguments here, your exceptions. So charge can throw an exception. We should be a little bit nicer here. So if we put in here when we declare the method, we could say throws illegal argument exception. This will be a little bit nicer so that when they're looking at the method here, it'll tell them that it throws. So this little IntelliSense, it says, hey, it'll throw an illegal argument exception. It's just nice for them to know, right? This is useful that, hey, a bad thing could happen. You should do something about it here. ParseDouble does the same thing. It throws a number format exception. It tells us bad things could happen. That's a nice thing to tell people. So here's our try here. So 10 charges 10. Okay, that was fine. If we go more than our battery here, if we did like 100, you can't charge that much. Uh-oh, but our loop stopped. So maybe if we catch here, we put charge back to 0, kilowatt hours to charge. So this will make the loop run again, right? Because if it's set to 0, then the loop will run again, right? We got a successful number, It didn't choke on the number, but the number was bad. So reset, so the loop will run again. Tell me that was too much, right? And then basically the same thing here, but now for drive. How many kilometers do you want to drive? Now we have kilometers to drive. Set that to 0, kilometers to drive. And this is drive. Right? Try and parse it. If we get a number format exception, spit it back out. If we get a legal argument exception, spit it out, reset back to 0. So the loop runs again. So charge for 10, that worked. Now we get 10 kilometers per kilowatt hour. We have 10 kilowatt hours. We should be able to get up to 100. So anything more than 100 should fail. You can't drive that far. How many kilometers do you want to drive? 99. That worked, right? Because we had enough charge. So this idea here of just trying it out and dealing with these exceptions is useful here. This is the try-catch blocks. So to the idea with commits here, if I come back to GitHub now, it says, hey, project 2 was updated. I can make some commits now. So this is not the entire project. This is the green stuff is new, the red stuff is gone. So these lines changed, individual lines changed. So 2 lines, 4 lines changed total here, right? So here's project 2 with exceptions. We can commit and push, and now I've got 2 commits for project 2, right? So if I go look at this on the website here, view on GitHub, and look at my project 2, I can look at this cool history tab here, history button here. This shows me all the commits. The first one for project 2, and then project 2 with exceptions. You make your commits, you work on your code, commit and push, commit and push, commit and push. You should get about 10 of these or more. Ideally more. I don't know, it kind of depends on how you're working here. And you don't have to wait like until something works. You can like, hey, I've been working for half an hour, I can commit and push. Go for it. Step away. Generally, anytime you're going to walk away from your computer, it's probably a good idea to commit and push your progress, because then if something happens, your cat steps on the keyboard and like hits the delete key by mistake, you're not going to lose any progress. I am speaking from experience. My cats have done bad things on my laptops, and like it just screws everything up and like restarted it. So it was really bad. But if you commit and push, once the history's out in the cloud, you can always get it back. There's like really, really, really tiny chance you won't, because GitHub makes their money selling this service to companies, saying we're not going to lose your code. You can put your code out here in the cloud. It'll be safe, right? They give it away for free because we're students, or we're a school organization, which is awesome. So we get the free stuff that people pay for, which is really cool. So we can take advantage of those tools. Now, this is just for that project 2. If I look at the history for the whole class, right, this is everything. So I've got, I don't know how many commits this is, and it's cool. Like it shows you by day, right? I can break it down and see what it is here. So, and I can go even older. So we can see the entire history here of what we've done in the class. Hey, I've started the repository the 29th of December. Then I updated the READMEs. I updated the READMEs a bunch. I do that a lot, apparently. That looks like our first class was on the 17th, maybe. I actually committed something other than the README. Right? This was the first one we did code. The first night was just GitHub and talking about the class, right? And we just go and go and go and go. So that's the idea with your repository. When you turn in your project, you're going to have all those commits you've been working on. Right? The idea is to show progress here. I'm fine if you want to use your sources. Now, you can't just copy paste the entire project and drop it in and call it good and say, hey, I found this project online, right? That's not good. Just like an English paper. You can't just say, hey, I've cited a paper, right? You can't take the whole thing, but you can take parts and you can add your original thought and ideas to it. That's the key here. Just like writing an English paper. You use your sources and you're adding original material to it. So use your sources online. That's fine. Find examples, find things you want to use that you want to work with, and then build on it. That's what we do all day long as professional software engineers. We try not to do anything from scratch because we're lazy, right? Good software engineers are lazy, efficiently lazy. I'm not going to go reinvent the wheel. I'm going to find something and then adapt it for what I need. And it's the same thing with all these AI tools out there now that can write code. Oh, it can write code that does some things, yes. Now, it's not going to solve complex business problems. It's not there yet. And there's whole schools of thought around whether or not it'll ever get there, which is interesting. But it can solve a small problem. But what our job is, the creative process, how do I break a problem down step by step into smaller pieces? How do I fit all the pieces together? Right? You're like the jigsaw puzzle master. You can find a bunch of pieces and you have to fit them together here to make it work to solve the big problem, to see the big picture. Computers are still not good at seeing the big picture. They don't work like that. That's not how it happens. convert your Java files to JavaFX serendipity. No, there's no conversion. It's JavaFX is a completely different thing. So if we're dealing with fxml files, that's just the user interface. So that sort of idea that we looked at, it uses that model view controller style. The model is our code. Electric vehicle is the code. This is all the business logic. A controller sits between that and the UI and says, okay, when you click this button, do this. When you click this button, do that. When you click this button, do this. That's all the controller does. And it tells the model, hey, this thing happened. Go do something about it. And it will update the UI. And then the FX file, the JavaFX file, is the user interface. We put all the buttons out there for us to click on. Yeah, so to cite a source, just drop a comment in. Cite some source. URL goes here. Now, with ChatGPT, it's not a very good URL to cite, right? I think we looked at. Did we look at that? You go to chatgpt.com, or no? It's, my goodness, I know what the URL is. Sorry, chat.openai.com. It's coming off my head too fast. So just this URL is not useful, right? It doesn't tell you what I told it here. So if you're going to use the chatbot here, like write Java class for electric vehicle. What I need here is you to include the prompt. Chat.openai.com prompt, something like that, right? Tell me what you asked it, because that way I can recreate it, which is most of the time I'll get back the same thing. It's a little funny how it works, but most of the time. So look, hey, we've got make, model, battery capacity, current charge level. Sure, that's weird they used integers here, but that's okay. The chatbot's not perfect. Did we talk about this? When it's safe to use the chatbot, right? Unless you have the expertise to know that it's right or wrong, it's really risky to use this thing because bad stuff can happen, right? So I would disagree with these being integers, right? I don't know what the unit is. It doesn't tell me what the unit is. And what if I'm like halfway between something, right? It's not very accurate at this point. Hector, my friend, thanks for donating those bits to the Student Scholarship Fund at the University of Michigan Dearborn College of Engineering and Computer Science. I need some more Coke. This is my second 1.25 liter here, and I've already had coffee too. I'm very excited. It's a good day. So I've been teaching part-time at U of M Dearborn for 7 years now. It's been quite a while. And I found out just last week there's a faculty lounge with free coffee. 7 years into it. But boy, I'm working on making up for it, taking that free coffee. As long as they don't I guess you do have to badge in, so they probably know it's me. But yeah, it's a Keurig machine, so it's not my favorite kind of coffee, but it's hot and black, so it'll do. There's caffeine in it. Pet. So yeah, you want to cite where you used your source. So if you found a function here's the charge function, you'd cite it above the charge function, right? That's the biggest piece you can take. And even an entire function or method is a bit of a stretch here. You can't just say, hey, here's a class, I'm going to cite this entire class. That's no good. But if you start with that and then you go add to it, I'm okay with that, right? So, okay, here, let's go grab this code. Let's hit copy. Come in here, we'll add another one. Electric vehicle. Oh my goodness, I can't spell vehicle from chat bot. Sure, and we drop this one in here, right? And then the name of the Java file has to name of the Java class from chatbot. Here, we could drop this one in and say OpenAI, ChatGPT. Here's my prompt, and I said, write a Java class for electric vehicle. Right? This would be a great time to commit. Here's my snapshot. This is what I got line for line for line. Now I'm going to go make my changes to it. So I can commit here. Hey, here's from chat. Let me actually get rid of this citation here because we don't want that one. We didn't actually use that one. So from chat, original. Right? Now as I go make changes to it here, I can see, okay, here's what I need to do here. Let's turn this one into a double. This one's going to be a double here. Right, this one will be a double here, and then this is not an int there. That one's a double. This one's a double. 1% charge is 10. That's quite the assumption here. Wow, that's a double. Here's a double. Math.min, the distance or the max distance, and then it prints the distance that it went. Sure. So whether or not we actually went as far as we wanted or until we ran out of battery, that's nice. It told us, hey, we tried to drive 100 kilometers, you only made it 50. That's real useful, right? Sure. Display the charge level. Okay, so they're using percentages here. Okay, this is real ugly. So we'd have to do a lot of fixing up here, right? Like, we can't just do that. So we'd have to go add attributes and things here. So we can add an attribute, right? So we get private double kilometers per kilowatt hour, right? And take that as an argument here. So we'd have a double here, kilowatt hour, add that in. Oops. Right, and then we can actually use that arithmetic. Right? And it's not the current charge level, it's the distance is going to be times kilometers per kilowatt hour, and the actual distance, then we subtract it here. Okay, sure, like, we'll see, not divided by 10, divided by kilometers per kilowatt hour. Right, that's if this actually worked here, because this is not, otherwise we're going to get negative, check for negative. And then we have to raise, like, throw exception. So, this, we're working through it here, right? So here's some edits. Edits part 1, or I don't know, like, you can do as many commits as you want here, right? The idea is we're going to do some work here. So we started with a product, we found, we're citing the source. Now, even this is a bit of a stretch. It's going to get us part of the way there, but we still have to do a lot of stuff to fix it. Right, and that's the idea here. So that's okay. If you want to cite your source, as long as you're doing original work, I'm okay with it. And this is what professional developers do. We're not going to write everything from scratch because we've got tools to make us faster. That's what the tools do, right? Best I can tell, they're not taking away developer jobs. They just make developers faster, which means we can be more productive and make the company more money. That doesn't always mean we get paid more, which is, that funny thing here that we're making the company twice as much money as we used to, and we don't get paid twice as much. But that's a separate argument here. So do we show where we started citing? Yeah. Yeah. And ideally, it's like, hey, here's the method. I'll cite my source. I don't need like this particular line to this line. That's more detail than I really care for. That's more trouble than it's worth, because then line numbers change too anyway. So like, just drop it wherever you found it. So if it's for the entire class, okay, go for it, as long as you're doing work and changing it here. If you just take their output and drop it in and never change it, that's no good. Right? That's like an English paper. Hey, I took an entire page and it's a 1-page size quote in a 5-page paper. That's not going to fly, right? The English prof is going to hand it back to you and say, no, this is no good, right? So same kind of rules apply. So if it's just for a particular method, great, drop it above the method. If it's a one line, hey, I found this one line, how do I do a particular calculation? Go for it, drop it above the one line. Most of the time we can figure it out from there. So, and if you got questions, let me know. I'm happy to talk you through it here. I know it sounds scary and awful, and I come down hard on people who cheat, but I'm assuming you guys don't want to cheat and you want to do the right thing, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So, okay, we'll go from there. All right, I think I got everything from chat here. Yeah, ancient bags. Yeah, ChatGPT doesn't always finish the code either. You could pay for the better version, but I hate paying for things, so I'm still using the cheap free version. I gotta see if I can talk the school into paying for it for me, because that'd be cool for research purposes, right?
For science.
For science. For science. Yes. So we'll see. We'll see. The other stupid thing, did I tell you last week about Samsung? So was it Samsung Engineers Chat GPT source code or something? I forget what was here. Yeah, Samsung was letting their folks use it here, but they ended up giving it sensitive data. And because one of the things ChatGPT does, because it's in beta mode, says, hey, we're going to keep on learning and using the stuff you feed it here and keep your data. Anything you enter, we're going to save forever, by the way, which is against European GDPR rules, which is a whole other story here. So it's about to get banned in Europe because there's no mechanism for removing data in large language models. That's a whole other issue, but we don't have to worry about that here because we don't care about privacy. Yeah. Our privacy laws are real bad. But they fed it some stuff they shouldn't have. So be careful what you give ChatGPT, right? Don't give it sensitive information.
I shouldn't give my social security number.
I mean, it'll look like anyone else's social security number, so they probably won't like track it back to you. So, and like if you ask it, can you give me an example? I don't think it would do that. Yeah, I can't generate real or fake numbers.
I gotta ask you the password.
Wait, what if
You give a number that is similar to a social security number for demo purposes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's probably not a real one. You know, it might be. Who knows? Yeah. What was the guy who used to do the commercials for LifeLock? Would be like, "This is my social security number." It doesn't do that anymore.
That would be very unfortunate if that was someone.
Yeah. Your data would probably get filtered out in lots of places. Like there's like this is a garbage number, ignore it mechanisms and lots of data input things. This would get filtered out. The other bad thing is if your last name is null. Null, was it California? Like a whole yeah, oh no, this null license plate, this is what it was. So it wasn't last name, but someone got a null license plate and he got every ticket that was ever written that was not assigned a plate number because it didn't have a plate. It's real bad. $12,000 in traffic fines. Yeah, well, his was the vanity plate, but like when the system, if like they wrote a ticket to somebody, it wants a plate number. If the car doesn't have a plate number, they wouldn't enter it. So now in the database they have null, and now it matched all of a sudden to this guy's null plate. So yeah, you'd think the system would be a little better than that, and that they wouldn't just match a actual plate with the word null to the absence of a plate number, which happens to be. So nulls are bad and dangerous. They cause all sorts of things here. I think someone had the last name Null, and that's also really bad here. Like, hi, Mr. Null here. I think this is it from Wired. This sounds right. Makes me invisible to computers.
What is it? If you want to pick off somebody who works in the database, just name your kid Drop Table.
Yeah. There's a whole comic about it. Drop Table. Here's the. Where's the comic? Oh, come on. Where's this one here? Can I zoom that in a little bit? So if you haven't taken the SQL class or Intro to Database class, this probably is not as funny.
Oh yeah, little Bobby table. And I hope you understand.
So dealing with user input is bad stuff because users give you the weirdest things, and sometimes they give you malicious things. So we've known since I've been a student many years ago, because I'm an old person now, how to sanitize inputs. And it still happens that people can use unsanitized input to break systems because the developers who wrote it were lazy and didn't do the right thing and follow best practices. It's upsetting. It's really upsetting. Like, we've been able to do this. It doesn't take lots of code. It takes like one line to use the library that does this validation for you. And people just don't do it because they're lazy. So, that stuff upsets me. Yeah, that's another fun story. We're getting off track, though. What were we trying to do here? We did the lab, right? That was the lab. We updated it for exceptions. All right, I want to spend a little bit more time doing some GUI examples here. So this will be the last new stuff here. So again, a JavaFX project here. So this is our week, what's this, week 13? 14? Week 14. That's right, because we go to 16 because we had one off for break. Week 14, more GUI. All right, so take out a couple things here. We don't need the size. Go and edit our file. Get rid of the ugly VBox here because I don't like VBoxes. Add an anchor pane or something. Anchor panes are easy. The border layout's nice too. I showed that example border layout. I'm just going to do an anchor pane for now because that's quick and easy. Make sure we pick the controller for it. All right. Now, all we've done so far are buttons and labels, right? And text fields for text input. So other fun things that you can do are like checkboxes. So a checkbox means you can check multiple of these things here. Right? That's the idea with checkboxes. The other ones that are fun are radio buttons. Now, radio buttons are a little bit different. Not that you folks know what radios are, but with the radio, you used to only have one button pushed at a time. You were on AM or FM. That was it. You can't be on both. So with the radio button, one and only one can be picked at a time. That's what radio buttons are versus checkboxes. So we got to give these things names. Let's go. This is my checkbox. How about we call this one? Let's do a coffee shop because I'm in the mood for coffee here. So this will be the. Let's do 2% milk. 2%. Oh, it can't start with a number. Sorry, these have to be valid variable names. So 2% milk checkbox. Right, and then on action we want to do something. So let's call this, I don't know, checkbox checked or milk checkbox checked. And we'll go change this one here. This is my whole milk checkbox. And we want the same, oops, let's go back here, get the same name here. Milk checkbox checked. And then we'll go in here, make this one the soy milk checkbox. And we want the same method handler. So we can use the same method for all of these here. We don't need to have a separate method for each. They'll work pretty similarly here. We'll go change the name. So this will be 2% milk. Now the text is fine to add in funny symbols here because it's not coming into Java code. This is whole milk. We can add soy milk. Now, again, in an actual coffee shop, of course, you'd have your almond milk, you'd have your oat milk, you'd have your chocolate milk. I don't know, all sorts of other things here. We're going to keep it a little simple, but you know, if you can do 3, you can do 50. As many choices as you want to give your folks here. So, and then on radio buttons, these are going to be things that are distinct, right? So do you want coffee? Do you want decaf? Or coffee, espresso, or tea? Right, so let's have coffee. And let's give it, this is my coffee radio button. And let's do espresso, radio button. Make this one espresso. And then we'll do tea. Tea's good. You gotta be in the right mood for tea, but tea's solid. It's definitely a solid choice. Tea radio button. All right. Then let's go add a button here for like checkout, right? So we'll call this the checkout button. And let's just checkout here. And we probably need a label somewhere, right? So here's, I don't know, this is our, we can take the text out for now, and let's just call this our drink label. All right, we'll give it a save, and now I'll come back to the fxml file, right-click, say Update Controller. I go to my controller class here. Right, the controller's job now is to deal with the inputs and handle that here. So we'll import the class, take care of a couple of these red lines here, import all of our classes, import. The welcome text is gone. We don't have this one. All the other ones we do have. Import the class. So, oh, it gave me a bunch here. Oops, we don't need all those milk ones. That's weird. It gave me 3. That was not very smart of it here. And now we need a non-action here. This is the, I don't know, beverage type radio button. Clicked. And let's grab that one and add it in for each of these. We'll see what it does. We'll try an update. Nope, that was the wrong button. Update controller. There we go. All right, and it gave me triple again. That's weird, but that's all right. I'll go take care of some of those. So you have to add the plugin first. So if you go to settings and plugins, if you go add the one called FXML Manager, you'll now have that as an option, and you don't have to do this stuff by hand. This makes your life much easier. Then you can go right-click and say Update Controller from FXML. Now our controller should have all of this. Now, we have a view, which is our FXML file, the UI. We have a controller. We don't have a model yet. So let's go add a class for beverage. So beverage then probably has a couple things, right? We know what kind of milk we're adding, bless you, and we know what type of beverage we are. And we probably have a cost associated as well, right? So maybe we have a private string for beverage type, a private. Now, when you add milk, there are checkboxes here. So nothing stops you from being a terrible person and adding 2% and whole milk and soy milk. Starbucks will love you. Okay, that was a joke. Please don't do that to those poor people at Starbucks. They don't get paid enough money to care. But that's probably a more than one option here. So it's probably like an array list then of strings for add-ins or milks or something. Milk sounds terrible here, but that's okay. We'll just go with it. Why not? Doesn't have to be good. Yeah, FXML Manager. Yep. So we have some beverage type, we have our milks here, and then we have a double for cost. So when we make a new beverage, let's go add our gets and sets here. So let's go generate some code. Now, when you're dealing with an array list, you gotta be a little careful, because if I give you back the array list, you now have access to change it, because you have this same array list reference in memory, right? So you can go add or remove from it. So it's a little bit risky here to do our gets and sets for these. So what's better then, instead of just giving you back the milks here, we want array list copy, or oh goodness, what was the way to do that? New array list of string given milks. I think that was it. Right, this should give you a copy here. That sounds right. Do you remember back when we did array lists? I don't know if we talked much about it. Okay, that's fine. Not too big of a deal. So this will give you the copy. Then we need probably some ways to set these values, because we can change them if you want, or maybe we just make new beverages. This is totally up to us. If we want you to be able to change the type of beverage here, that's fine. If you want to be able to change the cost, probably not changing the cost, but maybe we can change the milks and the types here. So we could generate some sets for type and milks, but not cost. So when we get cost, that's probably going to be based off of something here. So maybe that's not even an attribute here. Maybe we get rid of that as an attribute and just say, we'll figure this out based on what it is here. You can say, hey, how about we have a double for base cost, starts at 0, and if my type equals coffee, we'll say my base cost equals $1. I'll say if my type equals, ignore case, espresso. For some reason, you get less, but it costs more. I don't know why that is, but sure. Type equals, ignore case, tea. My base cost then is $2. I don't know. This is probably wrong here, but that's okay. Right? And then how about we charge you for every milk? Or maybe some milks are free, and just some milk costs money, and the regular milks are free. However we want to do it here, it's totally up to us. So maybe we can say my base cost plus equals my milks dot count or size times 0.5. Let's just charge 50 cents per milk. Right? We'll be an equal opportunity charger here. You want regular milk, we'll charge you money. You want soy milk, we'll charge you money. You want almond milk, we'll charge you money. It's probably fine. Then we're done, we can return base cost. That's a little bit ugly here. Let me do this. Return base cost plus that. Okay, because we don't actually want to change the base cost here. And it might be 0. Milk size might be 0, which is okay. We'll add a constructor. So if we want to give someone access to create this with or without these values, we give them a no argument constructor. If you have to tell me the type, great. We'll take the type. If you have to tell me what milks, that's fine. Or maybe we have no milks. Right? We got options here. However we want to take these is okay. Again, taking this instance is probably a little bit risky. We might want to just start off with no milks here and say my milks equals a new array list. And then we have a method for add milk. I think this is a Boolean. Add milk, a string for milk. We'll take our milks dot add the milk. And add, I think, does this return something? So if I hover over it, it says returns a Boolean. Yeah, so we can return that. Probably always going to be true, but who knows? We may or may not use this. That's okay. So we can add a milk. You can't really remove a milk, though, which is a little bit unfortunate. So I don't know. Maybe we'll use the set. Maybe we'll use the add. We've got options here, but we can figure it out later. And again, we can change it when it comes time. We don't need to be fixed on how we want to do this. So like, as we're thinking about how we want it to be used, great. And we can commit here. So here's like coffee shop part 1 or started, right? And we don't want that one there, right? I want everything else. Oh, that was just a blank, like I got rid of a tab, so I'm just going to get rid of that one. You can discard that change. All right, so I've got one commit. So now we'll come back to the controller. So controller then, all these things that are at fxml are in the fxml file. So if I want a beverage that's not, I'll just say it's just my own private variable here. Then I can add a constructor. So public hello controller. Beverage equal to new beverage. Now I don't know what type it is yet though. So maybe I don't want to put this in here yet. Right? We got some choices here on what we want to do with this one here, because we don't know what type is. Or maybe just the type is blank to start. And maybe that's okay. We got options. So now when the milk box is checked, we probably now want to take our beverage and add those milks to it. Now to do that, Again, we could use the add milk option, but we might get like duplicates, and it gets a little funny here. So I think the easy way for us is to make a string of, or I'm sorry, an array list of strings for milks equals a new array list. And then if the, what is it, 2% is checked, checked, what is it here? Milk checkbox is selected, is selected. That means that it's been checked here. Then we'll take our milks and we'll add 2% or 2%. Nope, sure, right? That's just a string. We can add that in. And then now this is not an else if because there are checkboxes here. More than one could be checked. So I don't want to say else if because that means that if the first one's true, I'm never going to look at the next one. So it's just another if. My whole milk checkbox is selected. I'll take milks.add whole milk. And then if my soy milk checkbox is selected, we'll take the milks, add soy milk. Right. Now at this point, we'll probably just make beverage again. So I'll say, hey, beverage equals a new beverage. Given, I don't know what the type is. Well, I need to ask what the type is. That's a little bit annoying here because I don't know what the beverage radio type button is yet. We'll come back to that. Right. We'll fix this. Fix type. But I can give it milks. Right. Now I got the list of milks. Oh, do we not? Did we take that out? I did. I took it out. Oops. That's annoying. I'm sorry. That's all right. We'll come back to this. So when the milk box is checked or when the beverage radio type is checked here, let's go do a private void as setup beverage. How about that? That'll be nicer here. Now we can make a beverage then. So we don't need those. We'll say we need a beverage. So we got to check what the type is. So if the coffee radio button is selected, then beverage equals a new beverage given coffee. Now this is fine as an else if because only one of these radio buttons can be picked at a time. Espresso radio button is scale shaped, is selected. Beverage equals a new beverage given espresso. And then I'm gonna leave this as an else. It's gonna be upset with me if it's an else if because I know there's only 3 options. This is maybe not the best way, but that's okay. So our last one here is gonna be tea then. New beverage given tea. So it'll be a little hard. A little harder. Update later. Okay, now I'm feeling bad here. So let's do this. Let's say beverage equals a new beverage given unknown to start. Then we can say else if my T radio button is selected. There we go. We'll make it T. Because that way beverage will have a value. So now I can call beverage.add milk. And I can add in the milk that I wanted here. Right, now we've got the milk. Right? Then we can put, after we've done all of that, then I can take my beverage label. Where's my label? What is it? Drink label. Set the text to beverage.getCost. Maybe a $sign plus that. And then all we need to do then, anytime these things change, is really call setup beverage. And we'll set up my beverage. Right? Now, it doesn't run yet. I don't have the run button. Sometimes you got to go to the Hello application and hit this run first. It gets confused sometimes. I don't know why with JavaFX projects. Let's give that a shot. Oh, hydration here. Thank you. Gotta remember. In fact, I'm sorry. Is it true for other coding languages? I forgot to look at when that was. So if I pick coffee, now it's $1 with 2% milk, $1.50, $2, $2.50. And as I uncheck them, they seem to work okay. Espresso's up. Oh, my radio buttons are bad. I forgot a step. So when you deal with radio buttons, you have to give them a grouping here. So with the radio button in their properties, I think you have to give it a toggle group. Here's the beverage type. So because JavaFX is so cool, you can have multiple sets of radio buttons. It'd be kind of obnoxious if every single radio button on the screen was independent, right? Like, so you group them together into a toggle group here. And then let's say, coffee is selected to start, because this should be our default beverage here. And that makes life a little easier for us here. So let me put those in a toggle group. Oh, the one line for libraries. Yeah, I mean, almost all languages have some built-in validation when it comes to data input. All right, let's give that a shot. So save. Now there's nothing to update in the controller. All I did was go and up. Maybe I have to do that. We'll try it. Let's update it just in case. It might have given us something new. Let's see. Yep, we did. We got a toggle group. There we go. We can add our toggle group for beverage type. Now we'll give it a run. All right, so 2% milk, $1.50. We got espresso for $2 tea, right? We can add more milks for each type here. Cost changes. So eventually we can check out, and it'll be nice, but we haven't figured that out yet. But now we can interact with this class level variable here of my beverage, right? So like in your game, you're going to have class level variables for things like your player, the maze, or just directly the 2D list of rooms if you want. You don't have to have a maze class. It's probably a nice thing to do, but either way will get the job done for you. Not too big of a deal, one way or the other. However you want to work it out. So you can reference beverage then in any method, right? We can go do that. So we probably then want to also have, what if we go and add here then a, let's add a text area here. Let's put this over here. And this will be my, how about this is the receipt text area. So when I, instead of checkout, how about we like, what do we want to call this? Add to order, right? So we can add that to the order. Then we probably also need to go and add, let me go give this a commit here real quick before I forget. So here's First Pass Coffee Shop with buttons. So if I want a beverage to like represent itself as a string kind of nicely here, we can make it a toString. So we're going to add this at override and say public string toString, right? Because everything gets a toString method thanks to being a type of object, right? Everything inherits from object. So we're going to change the behavior of toString here, and we're going to return the, I don't know what, our type here plus with, or if there's milks here. So maybe it gets a little funny here. We might have two options here. So if the milks dot size is 0, we're just going to return the type, and maybe the cost, right? Because this is a receipt, right? It should look nice here. So cost here plus cost, get cost. Otherwise, then, right? And really, we don't need the else because if you hit a return, you're done. We're going to need to kind of put all these things together. So there's a really cool way of putting strings together in a list. It's string join. I don't remember if we've talked about that one or not. If you go Google it, we could ask the chatbot how to figure it out, but we've done this one a few times. So we can return the type plus with, and then I'm going to take my milks and I want to, or call, what is it, string.join a space here with milks. So this will comma separate all these things for me, every milk in here, and then we can add the cost, get cost. We'll try that. So now we'll say, okay, when you click the checkout button, which we don't have anything in here yet, so let's go add a checkout button, or add to order, order button clicked. So let's go update our controller. And we should have a new method here, add to order here. So let's take that beverage, we'll set up the beverage, and then we're going to take our receipt text area, we're going to append text, the beverage toString. So we get a string version of that, put it here. Now we probably also want to do this as well. So instead of just beverage here, we can just do beverage toString. This will be a little easier. But then after we add it to the receipt, do we want to clear out our buttons? We might want to clear out the buttons. We got some choices here, so we could. Maybe now we'll let's uncheck the boxes here, so we can take our milk checkbox, our 2% milk set checked. Where is it here? Set. Oh goodness. How do I uncheck it here? Check. Select. Is selected? No. Can't set the set selected. There we go. The false. There. So we'll go unset all of these checkboxes here. So the whole milk checkbox and the soy milk checkbox, we'll undo those. And then do we want to go back and pick coffee again, or maybe we just want to unselect all of them here? We could take our beverage type select toggle. False. I don't know if this will actually do what we want it to do or not. No, select toggle. That's not going to do it here. Nope.
I'm gonna change it to candy soda.
Yeah, maybe we'll leave that as is, or we can always put it back to coffee or something. I don't know. We'll see what this does here. And then maybe we set beverage to null. Beverage equals null. We can use this really funky, ugly null here, which is okay. And then we probably also want to clear the drink text label too, so we can check if my beverage is null. Beverage equals null. We'll set the text to blank. Here, otherwise we'll set it to that beverage here, because if the beverage doesn't exist, then we'll get bad stuff here. Let's try this. And then we can actually avoid that first line too, which is nice. We can get rid of this whole setting up in the controller. So if it's null to start, it's okay. We never gave it a value until we call setup beverage. It won't crash our labels here. Now we get these things, so I can add it to an order here, right? So add to order. We'll probably need to make that a little bigger. Now we can go change this one here. We'll add that one to the order. Oh, we got to add in some new lines. We forgot. So let's go add some new lines. Plus a new line here, right? Make it go down a line. And then let's make that a little bit bigger here. So shrink it a little bit. So this will be our receipt here. Sure. Give that a try. Need original name? Yes, it used old answers. Sometimes it'll do that with ChatGPT. It's not always perfect here. So like coffee with the milks this much, right? So that the comma separating, it's doing that for us, which is nice. Or it's just regular coffee. We can add that. We can add a tea, right? We can just keep on going here. We can add, and it's going to scroll for us because it's text area, which is nice, right? We can go and change these things if we want. Eventually, we could add like a checkout button, have some other stuff happening here, and then clear our receipt and go from there. But this sort of idea, we can deal with beverage being null then, because we just, if it's null, set the label to blank. So similar idea, right? Sometimes you won't have an NPC to fight. It might be null in your room. So if it's null, don't show anything on the labels. If it's not null, right, you can go set your labels. So you just need to check for what you're looking for, see if it's null or not. And then the idea with using the maze and that 2D list of rooms, if when you're done fighting the monster, you either leave it at 0 hit points, or you could go set it to null if you want. When you come back to that room later, because you can go up, down, left, or right and kind of navigate around, the monster will be in the same state, either dead with no hit points and be like, hey, you stumbled upon a dead body that you forgot to clean up, or all sorts of interesting things we could do eventually in the game like that. But it'll save the state of that NPC, whether it's at 0 hit points or we can go put it to null and hey, that's gone now, that sort of thing. So we got lots of options on how we want to handle that. So here's using a couple more fun things here. Let's take a look at the Java Notes chapter. So he adds, properties and bindings, more graphics. So this idea with MVC is kind of what we're doing here. He does it this hard way, right? We're doing it with the easy way with Scene Builder, which is nice. So I wouldn't worry too much about what's in here. Again, you'll come back to a lot of this stuff. The properties and bindings are super cool because you can automatically map stuff and have it change when something changes. So there's like a slider here, like you can drag from left to right and pick a different value. You can have something automatically change when that value changes rather than it being a listener. So there's some other options on how you do these things. Binding properties is really fun. That's something you might get into in the next class, a little more advanced than we need to handle here, but you can do stuff like with our radio buttons, right? This toggle group, we can bind stuff, which is fun. Other cool things you can do with graphics. You can do all sorts of interesting stuff with graphics, which is actually kind of neat. You can do patterns and more stuff that I even really care about because I'm not really into the look and feel of things, unfortunately, or for better or for worse. You can transform stuff, right? You can stretch and tilt and reverse, which is really fun. So lots of cool things you can get into. Just know it's out there. Dialog boxes and other fun pop-ups and confirmations are cool too. I don't think we're going to do a whole lot with this chapter actually, because it's fun, but this is more than we need here. So I think we're about pretty good here then. Yeah. Awesome. So I've got 7 on the clock. There's no lab today. This is just extra stuff. Again, you can use them as you wish in your program. It does not have to look just like mine. Right? That was just an example layout that you're welcome to look at and modify and use if you'd like that one. I like when people come up with their own stuff because it's much more interesting to see people's unique things rather than 15 of the exact same project. But again, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that here. This is not the UI design class, so not too big of a deal there. And then someone wanted to know about scheduling presentations. So for you folks, I expect you already have Tuesday night open because you're in the Tuesday night class. For folks in the online class who've been watching our recordings, they have to schedule appointments with me in my Calendly link. So that's in D2L.
We'll be showing you part of the entire class.
Yeah, so you guys get to share with everyone, which is really fun. You get to see everyone else's results. It's hard to schedule that with the online group. So they don't get to see all the extra ones here, but that's okay. Oh, and come summer, you won't have to log in separately, which is nice. There'll be a different login process. So the Calendly link here. And if you folks are gone that Tuesday, because I know this is getting close to summer, let me know. I can do appointments for you folks if we need to. I'd rather not, but if we need to, we can. Just go to the Calendly link here. And this last week I added a bunch of slots. So we've got some time. Nothing that Tuesday because that's a busy day and you folks are presenting. So, but other than that, people online can do it. Yeah. Oh, pictures. Yeah. The other thing is pictures. You can do image views as well. So let's go add like a little logo here for our coffee shop. So let's go grab a Java logo. Let's seal this one here because I'm sure that's probably fine.
Okay.
Why is it called R? This is Java. Yeah, that's probably bad. But okay, it's just the Java one. Just an example. So you have to give it an image. Now, the problem is you don't want to use a path on your computer that's not in the project. So it's on my desktop right now, but that's not where I want it to be. So I'm going to go move it into my folder here, into resources. So you can actually go and I think you can add a resource. How do we do this one here? We want to add. Oh, goodness. Why am I not? I don't want a new file? What was the way to do it here? New file? Maybe it was java.png. And let's go open this up. Maybe we'll just do that. Let's see if this works. Open in Explorer. Oh, yeah, that's what I didn't need to do that. Okay, I can just paste it in here. I'll drop in the real one here, and it should show up here. There we go, as the PNG file. So now it's going to be a relative path because it's in the project. So if I want to go and pick the image here, it's looking in my resources folder already, which is nice. So it just says @JavaPNG, which is really cool. So if I go look at what that code looks like in the fxml file, here's my image view. Where is it here? Right here. The URL. So this could be a full path. It could be, I think you can even do an actual URL out on the web, although I wouldn't recommend that because then it has to like go out to the web every time. It's not great. Is local to the project. This @ sign is essentially saying, hey, it's a local file. It should be with the project. And then when we run it, oh, not debug, just regular run, it should show up here just fine. We got our little Java logo. Let's do with logo. Please don't sue me. Oh, we did the milks too. That's okay though. Right, so yeah, you can use images if you want to have images there, and then you can change the images here as well. That's a little harder to do, but if you give it an FX ID, here's our Java logo image box, image view. We should be able to have. Let's look up a coffee image. I think there's a way we can filter these here, right? How do we want to filter image search? I can find open source ones here. Here we go. Filter, license, public domain. That's probably better. If it's public domain, it's probably safe, right? I think that's the free to use ones.
You are part of the public, right?
I think so. Do I count as public? Probably. We'll drop that one in here. That's a weird format. JFIF? Okay, I don't want a JFIF file. That just seems stupid. Let's try this again. What are we going to get here? What is JFIF? Do I not? I don't know a lot of images, but usually they're JPEGs. How is that a what? Coffee. All right, we'll just see if it works. Okay, it seems to work as a JPEG. That's fine. We'll do that one. Put it in here. Yeah, set text on a label. It's append text for a text area.
Do we need that?
What? No, it's just for fun. Someone wanted to know pictures online. You have to add a GIF.
What if it's like a text field that's a big dot set text?
So the text areas are append text. So yeah, we did when we checked out here, we did append text, and you have to add your own new lines. And then we can say like image view. Java. Oh, I forgot to update the controller. Let's update the controller. What? There we go. Java logo image view. Oh, we gotta add the import here. That image. Oh, a new image. Image. Yeah. This is gonna be obnoxious. At coffee.jpg. Something like this might work. We'll see. Probably won't. I'll try it. Nope, it crashed. Oh, well, let's ask the chatbot. Maybe it'll know. You change the image in a JavaFX image view. Set image. New image. It's probably just the path is wrong here then. Just coffee JPEG? There's gonna be a lot of trial and error. We'll see if we can get it. You're banning the word Megastraight? Okay, I'll give it a try. Alright, still crashed. Didn't like the path here. No, we're still working on the images. We're still playing with it. Path to image resources directory. Let's see what we get. Oh, okay. Get class, get resources as stream. That seems fun. We're finishing this up and then we'll do questions. Yeah, we're doing images still. Yep. No worries. All right, we'll try this. This might work for us. And this should just be coffee.jpg, maybe? Let's try that. Nope. Oh, that one's null. Oh, man. What's the path here? I don't know. I'll look at image the path here. Image in the asset project. Copy the link path. Copy path. From content, from source. I don't know which one of these is right. Maybe from source root. Let's try that. Might be one of these. It's trial and error at this point. Nope.
It's the idea that picture will replace the other picture.
Yeah. There's a way to do it. I'm just not remembering what it is right now. Let's see. A way to do it. I've done it before too. Set image. Let me go look. I think it was. Let me find this one here. 2151. Yeah, should have just done it. That's the image. Copy JPEG. Not just coffee JPEG. New image. Confused. No, yeah, because we're just always going to change it here. It's just not liking the here. You need to do something with this. Sources. Hang on. What do I do with this project? Source. Images. Man. Resources. Yeah, it should have been in there. It's weird. I'll find an example for you and post it later when I'm not streaming. Finish this up. We got a couple people with questions. Example of the project. Do you what it looks like? Yeah, and like it just when you click the buttons on the layout, it just spits that text to the screen. There's not too much more to it than that. Sort of like your bad text adventure game was sort of the idea. Can really work anyway. All right, I'll figure out how to finish this. So you got questions online, let me know. I'll be around on Discord, and we can go from there. Thanks, folks.